All right. So, hey guys, I am David for BigBits. It's been a while since I've done a video at all. Been really busy. I keep talking about doing more videos, but stuff keeps coming up. But anyway, I'm going to do some TA today. It's been a while, but I think there's a lot of things we're starting to see in the market, and there's a lot of opportunity coming up. So we're going to go through. I've got the Bitcoin chart pulled up right now on the daily. I'm going to change this. We're only going to look at one at a time for now. We're probably going to switch back and forth, but wow, I didn't realize you could see so much on the full screen. It's been a while since I've done that, but we're going to start here with Bitcoin. Obviously, this is a daily chart, and things are looking really good. We've already talked about how when we broke out here, we came back and we retested this former resistance, and it held, and things are taking off. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there really is no real resistance above where we are. You can talk about how there was, the all-time high at 20K. That might be the only real barrier that we run into. And if you look at this chart without the Bollinger Bands, things look amazing. We've had, what is that, 6 or 7 green weeks in a row now as of this moment. Momentum, RSI, everything pointing up still. And if that momentum continues on, things continue to look well. And now, if you're in the chat today, I might not respond. I've got to leave some stuff up on the other monitor, so I'm not able to really track that stuff right now. But just look at this. This is absolutely insane. Let me take it off of the log chart. Let's go to the regular chart. I think that's a little bit easier to see when we got things like this, and we'll zoom in as well. You can see we had our highest weekly close since the bubble back there here a few months ago. And since then, once we retested that former resistance that I showed you about here on the stream, you can see we've just taken off. And there really isn't much to slow it down because, like I said, there's no real resistance here. There might have been a small point here, and you can see it did kind of check up there briefly. But there's really no resistance. There's no really price structure or history, I should say, in the trading that should indicate that anything should stop the price between here and the all-time highs. Now, momentum is going to be an issue. Can things really keep up the way it has been? Now, I'm not entirely sure about that. But things do look incredibly well, as we've been talking about. These moving averages are looking insanely good. Again, we have the 50 above the 100, above the 200, and I'm not even sure if my head's in the way or not, but that's a really good thing when you're looking at a trend here, to have those lined up one after the other here to where everything's in line. And what does this really kind of remind you of on the weekly chart? It kind of reminds you of something back here where we really started to take off here back in 2016, I believe. So let's go and let's take a look at the BLX chart, which actually has a lot more history to it. And we'll get a little better sense. So this is just a regular scale. I'm going to be turning this onto logarithmic because it makes a lot more sense. So you can see I talked about a while ago, back in 2019, where we had the moving averages realign. The 50 went below the 100 for a while. The trend was pretty neutral, and you can tell because the price went sideways since about here to here, barring these sort of anomalies where the price dipped or shot up really quickly. But let's take a look back to the last cycle. The 50 got really close to the 200 back there, and that's 2015, November of 2015. We never even got close to the 200. In my opinion, that means it's been a little bit more solid. The burst of that bubble back there wasn't as bad as what a lot of people thought it was going to be. Now, we are well into this recovery period where our moving averages are aligned much better. I would say, if you're looking at time-wise, since this crossed back up, I'm not sure how many bars we currently are ahead. Let's see, where's the measure tool at? Here we go. I think this will tell us how many bars it's been. Yeah. So that's 46 bars. That's about a year since the 50 crossed over the 100. Let's see what we've gotten here. Let's go about 40 something bars. There you go, 46. So does this not look very similar? You're talking about this measurement at the same point in time. Let me do the measurement again over here. 46, 47 bars. And we did the same thing once they crossed over there. But look at it in relationship to the highs. Let me actually kind of circle these little, and of course the drawing tool got in the way. That is the only point in which the price history is above where we are. Let's see what the equivalent was back then. Let's go the 47 bars this time. That one's actually above it, so we'll do the 46. But on this one, it's actually above the previous all-time high. So we're not doing as well relative time-wise to where we were then. So maybe this cycle is a longer cycle, like a lot of people have been talking about, or maybe it's just not going to be as strong as a cycle. Now, I'm going to zoom out on this weekly chart because I really like this. It's kind of amazing how big this weekly chart's getting, right? The price history has really grown. Bitcoin is much older now, percentage-wise, compared to what it was back in 2017. We have a lot more data to work with. And you can see on my parabolic chart where I ignored wicks on the top of these weekly candles. If we were to go to an all-time high now, like today, it would be around 60,000. And I honestly think that's very reasonable. It's not something incredibly unreasonable like the stock-to-flow model would suggest. I think it's probably pretty good, a good point there, if that were to be the high. Now, let's see. I want to go back to the monthly chart here as well and see if there's anything we can kind of gather from this. And there is. We're going to go back to the regular scale because we're not really worried about this data back here. But you can see last month, I told you we were on an historic monthly close. I did a whole video about it. Not many people watch those sorts of videos that I make, but I think if you watch my channel, you like the TA, I think you probably should have watched it. And not a lot of people were talking about it when I did it. I was talking about it at least a week or two ahead of time, whereas most people kind of jumped on it about 4 or 5 days before the end of the month last month. But I knew it was going to be really close. We ended up not quite getting there, but the momentum has been pretty insane. Now, this month is going to be very important. Because what we don't want to see is this kind of almost tweezer top like you saw back here where there's these huge wicks above where it was. And if you would have asked anybody what was the monthly close on Bitcoin in 2017 to end the year, most people probably would have said 17,000, 18, 19,000, something like that. It was really only 13.9. So it was not nearly as strong as people thought once it got up to those levels. Now, it did stay up there for a couple of weeks and played around up there. It came down, obviously. It did that, God, I can't even think of the name of the bull trap. There you go. It did the bull trap, came back up to 17, and then dropped like a rock since then. So, yeah, it was a pretty clear top back then. What you don't want to see now in the last 2 weeks, 14 days, and 4 hours of November, you don't want to see the price climb like it did then and then come back down and form some sort of other top. You would really like for a convincing close, kind of like what we are at right now, above that price. Now, on the normal chart, this looks amazing. On the logarithmic chart, it's not quite so clear. Let's zoom in. So there you go. We did break that resistance. We retested it there, and this even works on the monthly chart to a nice degree. So if you're looking at this on a logarithmic scale on the monthly chart, I gotta say you're looking for things to continue to move up. Now let's take a look at some of the indicators that I have for it. And this is pretty steady momentum upwards. This is nothing amazing like this. I mean, that's a pretty quick movement. Even when you zoom out, it's not insanely quick upward movement. This move, that parabolic run up that we had in 2019, that was a quick move. You can see momentum moved up very quickly. It kind of corresponded pretty well with the RSI. The RSI, I think, was a little bit quicker to call the top there, but it did. And you can see momentum is just continuing to move up. And as long as we close with a nice green monthly candle here, I don't see why things can't continue to move forward like this, and we have a really good time. Now, I said for the longest time that I don't think we have a chance to reach the all-time high this year, and I recently changed that because honestly, the market started outperforming my expectations. I thought there was absolutely no way that we were going to reach near $20,000, and sure enough, we're doing really well. We're coming up very strongly to end the year, 16.9 as of while I'm talking. I think 16.8, something like that. We're doing really, really well. Much better than I think anybody really actually expected at this point. And if you did, then kudos to you. That's very impressive. But all of the momentum on monthly, on weekly charts points upward. Now, weekly charts, not quite as strong. On the momentum, well, it is actually quite strong. But what you're looking at here is weekly momentum getting overbought. So typically Bitcoin, when it's on these parabolic runs like you saw back in 2017, let's look at the first time that we got truly overbought on my indicator. That was back here in May, and the price continued to run up quite a bit before eventually crossed down. And if you had have sold across down on the momentum there, you would have done pretty good, but you would have had to time your exit pretty well. It was that parabolic cycle. It's hard to claim. But you can see these curves and how close they were here on these moving averages compared to what we're looking at now. If this is going to be another cycle, these are going to separate, and it's going to be really nice looking. And the reason I created these indicators with the ghost trails is so you can kind of get an idea of how likely that is to happen. You can see price in the last 50 weeks all being around this level, and every new week we drop the last price. So here in about 20 weeks, which conveniently is about half a year, we are going to remove these super low prices, and as long as our price is still up here, the moving average is going to skyrocket over that time, just because we're replacing these much lower prices with much higher prices. So that's going to be very interesting. And see, our moving average right now is somewhere around $9,500 on the weekly. For the 50 week, I'm saying we could see something. Let's see, we're shooting out toward June. Like, if you were to project a movement upwards like that, I mean, the current price we are now might be where that moving average is if this cycle is actually going to hold true to what we've seen in the past. Now, taking a look at the RSI, of course, it's overbought. A lot of times you'll get these dips and then continued momentum. If you're curious as to how to kind of look for when there might actually be a top, I would suggest trying to find some sort of divergence, and probably not trying to find a top on the very first entry into overbought territory. As you can see, that didn't always work out too well. Even when you did catch a crash back in 2017, everything kind of just continued to go up. So again, if this is a new cycle, then you're probably best waiting and seeing if the momentum and these indicators can stay overbought for some time. And even then, let's look back here on my indicator. It stayed overbought. It crossed under. You might have thought this is an excellent divergence. Just here, not even the one that my indicator pointed out, but you might have thought this was an excellent divergence. You can see there is a lower high, much higher prices, I can see why a lot of people sold around $6,000 last time. And it's insane to think that in just 5 weeks, the price went from 6,000 all the way up to 20,000. And we were only below that $6,000 price range for half a year. It's pretty wild to think that you got that bearish divergence up there at that price. And you can even see it on the RSI. So it's really hard to tell. That's why I use something like the smoothed RSI and my indicator. Usually when you get these twin peaks, is what I like to call them, on the indicator, it's a really good way to find a top. A quick top, that is. Not necessarily one of these drawn out, slow falling tops like we had back here in the middle of 2019, where we had the parabolic run up and everything just kind of slowly went down. You didn't get the twin peaks because you didn't get this extended long cycle. It was a very quick run up and a slow drop in price. So there's a lot to look at when it comes to using this indicator, and you'll notice I think the indicator did really well trying to find a bottom. If you at any point saw the weekly indicator oversold, it was an incredible buy. I mean, look at those 2 weeks that it occurred in. That's amazing. And if you bought the crossover, you were in great shape as well. But essentially, the point is, the best times to have bought have been when the indicator has been super low. And you can see there was even a divergence here, a bullish divergence, where it went oversold, it went oversold, and then it went even lower. So if you would have bought there and there, you would have averaged in somewhere around $288. And if you had rode it for the entire cycle, you'd been very happy. But okay, I've done enough of Bitcoin. I think I'm going to move on to taking a look at Ethereum. And we're going to move into the daily chart first and work our way back out like that again. All right, so what's impressive about Ethereum, and I'm going to turn the Bollinger Band back on here. What's impressive about Ethereum is that our momentum has been weakening and price is still moving up. That is a very strong signal to me that the market is still very bullish. Now, it doesn't mean that things are going to continue to move up. It just means that despite the lack of momentum pushing the price up, it still continues to rise. And that might just signal that people are waiting to buy back in, or it might just signal that liquidity is kind of dried up. You can see the volume has really dried up recently. It was pretty strong there once we broke out from around the 240 breakout was back here. But once we broke out from that range, the volume increased pretty good on the daily, and it's kind of dried up since then. But to have a chance for that momentum to continue to go sideways or even downward while the price goes up is insane, because as long as the price keeps moving up here in the next few days, you can have another crossover, and if the price is already high and you get a crossover, typically from what I've seen, the price continues to skyrocket, which is really incredible considering the momentum has been going down. It's just kind of wild to watch, and the indicator has been really well. It's treated me really well watching this momentum change on these things. Now let's go out to the weekly. Now I know I said the daily. It looks really well. I did forget to point out, though, here on the daily, you have the realignment of the moving averages. Everything is now back in line for Ethereum. You have the 20 above the 50, above the 100, above the 200. Everything looks really good for Ethereum on the daily chart as far as a trend, a long-term trend. So let's go back out to the weekly. And I hate having to do this, but you got to take off the Bollinger Bands because they go negative and it messes up the scale. The weekly is a little bit different. It looks really good. You have your moving averages wanting to catch up. And we'll see if that actually happens. I would assume it does, because I will assume that we are going to enter into a new cycle. And we are at a period of resistance here. As you can see, there was a cluster of price action back here. That's why I say we're at this potential resistance area. Once we can get above $500, I think we're good up until, what is it, 680-ish. I wouldn't put any sort of resistance here. Well, if there is resistance around 580, I wouldn't say it's much resistance. My personal target would be that next bump up there around $680. And I am going to turn the Bollinger Bands back on, but we're just going to zoom in to where it doesn't matter. You can see how the trend looks like it wants to change. Okay, momentum is moving up, similar to Bitcoin. It's not as strong, but Ethereum has kind of been a follower here in this scenario. It's been kind of following the price action of Bitcoin. So you can see everything kind of moving up. It's just kind of taking longer. What I'm a bit concerned about here with Ethereum, though, is that the weekly Bollinger Bands are tightening. They were very wide here. What you want to see is you want to see the price, break out quickly to the upside, pushing the bands. You want, like back here, you want the price to ride those upper bands. That's where most of your huge price movement comes from. It doesn't come from this movement between the bands. You want the price to push against the upper bands, and that's usually what causes these huge run-ups in price. Let's go out to the monthly, and I'll definitely have to take off the Bollinger Bands here. Now, there's not much to work with here, but I am slightly concerned on the monthly only because of my indicator. And in situations like this where my indicator shows this potential loss of momentum, things are still positive, but they're not as positive as they were. It's like a decrease in your acceleration. Things go down. Hey, David Dalla. Thanks for stopping by. We're talking about Ethereum right now on the monthly chart. But what I'm talking about here is on my indicator. This indicator, my Stochastic Weights Advanced, is the one that I use primarily to make my decisions. But I do have the other indicators, such as the moving average, the Bollinger Bands, the smoothed RSI, and the MACD on here to kind of confirm what my indicator and my intuition is telling me. And right here, I think my indicator could very well be wrong, mainly because we are moving up away and the trend is moving up. But that's pretty typical for crypto price action. You're typically above those moving averages on your major coins on these such high time frames. But when you look at the smoothed RSI and the RSI, the trend is obviously shooting up. And we have a lot of room on the RSI before we even get to overbought territory. We are currently at around 62 or 63. Yeah, 61.93 on the RSI on the monthly chart for Ethereum. We are currently at $464 on this chart. Where would the price be if we go overbought in February or March of next year? It would have to be around all-time highs or higher, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for. This trend on the RSI and the MACD flipping bullish kind of points to me that these things are very likely to continue to run. Now, I'm not going to dwell on Ethereum too much. I think it's a little bit more confusing and a little bit harder to read than some of the other things that we've looked at. But I want to go ahead and take a look at some alts now. I said I would look at some alts in the video today, so that's what I'm going to do. And I want to start with Link. And the monthly chart obviously doesn't really tell us much of anything other than it's performed really well. But let's go down to the daily and zoom back out kind of like we have been. Now, I did post earlier today that I think the daily looks really good. Now, if you want to know why I think the daily looks really good, it's because we are continuing to stay above the trend. Our 200 daily average is down. It's at $8.90 or so on Link. But we're getting at a pretty key point. We've continued to see price action move up. And similar to Ethereum, the momentum has been going down, but the price has been staying sideways. So, in my opinion, if the price stays sideways, neutral, let's say, and your momentum is decreasing, the chances that the momentum continues to decrease, in my opinion, is lower than it would be for it to turn around. Now, if it does have a crossover here, look at the Bollinger Bands. So despite the price moving pretty sideways here, the Bollinger Bands are relatively wide. And they seem to be expanding, honestly, due to the movement within the candles. So if you can get a move back up to this upper Bollinger Band, it could very well ride those Bollinger Bands up, and you could see new all-time highs on Link. That's why I say it looks pretty good. Now, that is based on my indicator. Now, the other two indicators that we look at here are a little bit more concerning. But like I said, I look at all of them to confirm. And what I see is forecasting here that I like. You have the Bollinger Band crossing back up above, or the mid Bollinger Band, I should say, the 20-day crossing above the 100-day. And if you look at the trend a little bit closer, you can see that it appears that the 50-day will end up crossing the 100-day at some point out here in the future too. So if price continues to stay high, which personally I feel like it will, because I feel like it's going to follow Bitcoin and I feel it's going to follow Ethereum within the market cycle, I think this is a good point. Mainly because I think we are at a point of resistance as well. So let me zoom back out here. Let's hide our indicators. I'll zoom back in. I'm just going to use the crossbars here, but look where the price checked up here. All right. It broke out and it formed a bit of support. Then it formed support again on a drop here. Then it finally broke and it held as resistance. It has been resistance ever since then. Even when we did kind of break it back here, we're still kind of within that range of resistance and support, looking for that to flip. So this is a pretty key area. I'm not afraid to buy a Link because I really like the project, but I think if we get back above this area here, which let's see what that price is, around $13, similar to Bitcoin, what is the resistance? So I would say the highest point in this range would be around 13.8 or so dollars. You get above that, what resistance is there? Not much, if any, on the daily chart. I think it looks really good. Let's take a look at the weekly. And this is another one where my indicator kind of conflicts with what else is going on. But everything is still positive. You still have positive momentum. Again, it looks like it's decreasing or not accelerating as quickly as it was before. So you have that to look forward to. But you also have the RSI indicators here. Well, the RSI indicator, and it looks like the RSI trend is slowing down, which if we do get the momentum to continue up, let's just say that we're at a point where it is kind of trying to decide what we're going to do, and if it does change back upwards, it's very good. And the reason why I tend to think that we are moving back up is because of Ethereum and Bitcoin. I'm very, very bullish on both of those on these larger time frames, and I don't think that alts like Link are going to get left behind versus the dollar. They might get left behind versus Bitcoin or versus Ethereum, but I don't think they're going to get left behind versus Ethereum and versus the dollar, excuse me. And to kind of take a look at this, let's take a look at Link versus Ethereum, and this is probably the reason why I'm most bullish on Link. Take a look at the Link chart versus Ethereum. It's done nothing but go up. And this is on a weekly chart, so who knows? Things might change, but let's go out to the daily. This is what I'm really looking at. Look at the 200-day moving average versus Ethereum. Notice anything? The price does not close below it. Let's see. We did close below the 200-day average in 2019. It was for a very brief time, and then it quickly recovered. The only time it consistently traded below the 200-day moving average was very early in its price history. I don't think the project was established well enough as it is now. And you can see there is a lot of history beneath the 200 back here, but not for a very long time. This is a very bullish, very, very bullish chart. And personally, I'm more willing to think that it continues to move up versus Ethereum as opposed to down. I think Ethereum needs projects like Link, which are oracles, to help it succeed. And considering where Ethereum is now without Ethereum 2.0, I think it's very important that these projects work, and I think they're going to continue to gain value until there is a reason not to. And again, I don't think there's much of a reason not to, honestly. The other one I wanted to look at was Uni, which I'm pretty excited about. And I forget which one has the longest history on this. I'm wanting to say it's probably Binance, but we'll see. I think it is, in fact, Binance in this case that I'm aware of. All right, this is a daily chart. You can see what's key here is we are testing this resistance here. What you want to see, and it looks like it's going to get denied at this particular time, crossing over that. But what I'm looking at is the moving average. This is the 50-day moving average. What I'm looking at is I want to see it hold this 50-day moving average. I'm a little concerned about that because you can see momentum kind of slowing down. This could be a twin peak type situation here, but the RSI is slowing down. The MACD not so much, but you can see that there. And let's take a look at the Bollinger Bands as well. What you want and what I kind of expect is for price to come back down and then continue its trend back up here at some point when these moving averages get a little bit closer together. This kind of tends to happen a lot when the moving averages kind of consolidate. They either act as very, very strong support or they get broken and they act as strong resistance. So something to keep an eye on there. Personally, like I said, I think the whole market is going to move together. So when Bitcoin goes up versus the dollar, it's going to drag altcoins up. It just won't drag them up as quickly as it does itself. So that's something to watch. Let's take a look at Uni versus Ethereum, and let's compare that to how it works with Link versus Ethereum. So Uni versus Ethereum, it looks like it's very much pegged to how it performed versus the dollar. This chart looks almost identical to the Uni USD chart. Obviously, there are some differences, but look at the momentum. It's very similar. It very much performs in alignment with Ethereum versus the dollar. Whereas with Link, you could see it was a pretty continuous trend upward. Now, Uni is very new. This is its entire history on Binance. So it's going to be hard to say. But I like Uni in the long term, but I think it could be a little bit slower to take off than the other ones. We'll see. Oh, man. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos. This is kind of fun. I missed it. I'm trying to keep up with everything that's going on. There's so much going on. Now, my classes have been going really well. If you don't know, I've been teaching college courses, which is a lot of the reason why I haven't been making as many videos. I continue to mention this in my videos, but that is what's going on. And I have some other things going on, some family health issues and things. I've mentioned this all in the other videos, but I'm glad to have been able to make a live video today. That way people can see the TA, kind of see where I'm at on these things, because I do try and share these things on Twitter. I think things are looking good. Everybody in the market's happy right now. It's kind of hard to find somebody who is bearish right now on everything. Now, political things might get in the way, but overall, I think the next cycle is looking really good. But honestly, I think I've talked enough. And I'm done with the video. There's nothing really new here. I do plan on making some videos for some stuff on TradingView, and hopefully once these classes end and the finals are over sometime in the first or second week of December, I can actually develop some stuff, because I'm really missing doing the coding part and the community stuff with you all and doing the videos. Hopefully we can get back to that real soon. And the invitation is out there if anybody wants to come on and chat. That's still out there. I'd like to start doing that, but it's something I just haven't had time to put the effort into. But again, that's going to be it for the video today. I appreciate everybody who actually came by and watched and stopped by. But I think I'm going to be done for now, guys. Thank you all. Have a great day, and I hope to see you all next time. I'm going to try and do another live stream at least once later this week. But that's it for now, guys. Thanks. See you all later.